Car Talk by Nicole M. Doctor. I've been the proud owner of a driving permit, a small plastic card verifying my right to drive with a consenting licensed driver for the past year. I am also, unfortunately, a very poor driver. Thanks to my abilities, the rear end of our station wagon has seen pine trees, poles, and snowbanks, all up close and personal. It's embarrassing, actually. I am supposedly a bright, well-rounded student who should be able to sail through this one teenage rite of passage with no problem. Alas, I cannot. The problem all started a year ago when that now aging permit first found its way into my eager hands. Mom and I took our first trip around an empty parking lot. I was totally unaware that my mother was most definitely not the best teacher for me. It wasn't that she yelled or told me that I was doing poorly. No. Actually, my mother told me I was doing quite well while digging her nails into the seat and trying to brake for me. As you can imagine, my mother's helpful instructions only managed to make me more nervous. A quick evening run to the drugstore where I nearly plowed over a small parked car brought an end to any hopes of learning from Mom. Since it was obvious that I could no longer practice with her, the job was placed in the hands of my father. The idea of learning from Dad was not one that thrilled me. I loved him dearly, but I just did not see Dad as someone I could be comfortable learning from. He almost never yelled, which was an advantage, and Dad also almost never talked. We shared a typical father-daughter relationship. He'd ask how school was, and I'd say it was fine. Unfortunately, that was the extent of most of our conversations. The prospect of spending hours alone with someone who might as well have been a stranger really scared me. As we got into the car that first time, I was not surprised at what happened. Dad and I drove around saying almost nothing aside from a few instructions on how to turn. As my lessons wore on, however, things began to change. Dad would turn up the radio so I could fully experience and thus appreciate his favorite Stones music, and he actually began talking. It was a bit scarier than silence, at first. I was soon hearing about past failed dates, basic bod gym class, and other tales from his past, including some of his first encounters with Mom. Dad's sudden chattiness was shocking until I thought about why he was telling me so much. In the car, I was a captive audience. In order to learn to drive, it was a requirement that I sit and listen to his every word. In all the years that I had wondered why my father never spoke that much, I had never stopped to consider the possibility that it was because I had never bothered to listen. Homework, friends, and even TV had all called me away from him, and consequently, I never thought my quiet father had anything to say. Since I began driving with him, my dexterity on the road has greatly increased. More important, though, is that my knowledge of who my father is has also increased. Just living with him wasn't enough. It took driving with him for me to get to know someone who was a mystery. Needed by Sandra Gilbert Brugg. "Brandy, time to go," says Mom. I hurry into coveralls, pull on my hat. The back door whacks behind me. It's a cold morning, stinging cold. Dad loads our pickup with hay. We can't afford a hired man this winter. I'm only 12, but I get to drive. I slip behind the steering wheel. When we reach North Pasture, Dad jumps out, climbs up on the load. Tires crunch in crusty snow. "Steer straight ahead," he calls. Cows come running when they see our headlights. Hooves stirring up clouds of crystals, steamy bodies crowd around us, shoving, bawling, and stealing mouthfuls of hay. "Speed up," shouts Dad. "Watch that ditch on your right." I press the gas, listen to the bale twine pop as Dad splits open hay bales, pitching a trail of feed to hungry cows below. When their bawling fades, I gear down, drive as slow as it goes. The only sound is a low engine's growl. "Stop," yells Dad. He hops inside the cab, bringing with him a sharp smell of hay. Use Car Talk to answer questions 1 through 4. Then fill in your answers on your answer document. Number 1. Read this sentence from paragraph 5. In the car, I was a captive audience. The author uses this sentence to explain how her driving lessons A. made her feel helpless, B. gave her father the chance to speak, C. became deeply interested in her, D. allowed her father to display his skills. Number 2. Which of these is the best summary of the selection? F. With her author had her driving permit for a whole year without learning how to drive well. Since her mother was unable to teach her, the task was given to her father. While driving with her father, the author learned about what type of music he liked and how he and her mother met. G. The author finally took the time to listen to her father's stories about his life when he was young. Doing so made her realize that many things in her life were distracting her from having a close relationship with him. H. The author's usually silent father tried to teach her how to drive. During the driving lessons, he surprised her by talking freely. As the author learned more about her father, she realized that she needed to make an effort to develop a better relationship with him. J. The author wanted to learn to drive, and her father began to teach her. As the driving lessons continued, she got used to his personal stories and began to like them. The author's driving skills eventually improved. Number 3. Read the sentence from paragraph 1. Thanks to my abilities, the rear end of our station wagon has seen pine trees, poles, and snowbanks, all up close and personal. In this sentence, the author A. shares her fear of never getting a driver's license. B. explains why she is such a poor driver. C. makes fun of her lack of skill. D. describes the place where she lives. Number 4. What can the reader infer about the author's father? F. He came to appreciate the opportunity to share his past with his daughter. G. He gave his daughter driving lessons because his wife insisted. H. He concentrated better than his daughter when they talked. J. He thought that talking to his daughter might help her drive better. Use needed to answer questions 5 through 7. Then fill in the answers on your answer document. 5. What chore do the father and daughter perform in the poem? A. Baling hay. B. Clearing snow. C. Exercising cattle. D. Feeding livestock. 6. The imagery in stanzas 3 and 4 suggests that F. Dad is not confident about Brandy's ability to drive. G. Brandy is unable to see because of the dust. H. Dad is in a hurry to finish the task. J. Brandy is keenly aware of her surroundings. Number 7. The abrupt dialogue in the poem helps convey the idea that the characters are A. enjoying the morning, B. focused on their work, C. cold and uncomfortable, D. worried about their safety. Use car talk and needed to answer questions 8 through 12. Then fill in your answers on your answer document. Number 8. Which of these best describes what the author of Car Talk and Brandy and Needed gained from the experience of driving? F. Both gain a deeper understanding of their own abilities. G. Both gain a deeper understanding of family members. H. The author of Car Talk becomes a skilled driver while Brandy learns how to farm. J. The author of Car Talk gets to know her father while Brandy gets to help her family. Number 9. How does the author of Car Talk differ from Brandy and Needed? A. The author of Car Talk wants to master a skill while Brandy takes on a new responsibility. B. The author of Car Talk thinks driving is scary while Brandy thinks driving is fun. C. The author of Car Talk is easily distracted while Brandy pays attention when she drives. D. The author of Car Talk does what she wants to do while Brandy does what her father tells her to. Number 10. Read line 7 of the poem. I'm only 12, but I get to drive. Which excerpt from Car Talk best matches the feeling expressed by the speaker in line 7 of the poem? F, we got into the car that first time. G, Dad and I drove around saying almost nothing. H, that now aging permit first found its way into my eager hands. J, a small plastic card verifying my right to drive. Number 11, how does car talk differ from needed? A, car talk describes events in the order that they happen. B, car talk shows how a father offers guidance. C, car talk focuses on something a girl experiences. D, car talk describes events that occur over a longer period. Number 12, how are the fathers in car talk and needed presented differently? F, the father in car talk communicates by sharing stories, while the father in needed communicates by giving instructions. G, the father in car talk is eager to spend time with his daughter, while the father in needed is hesitant about having his daughter help him. H, the father in car talk demonstrates the importance of following directions, while the father in needed demonstrates a carefree approach to driving. J, the father in car talk is uncertain of his ability to provide instructions, while the father in needed is confident when giving instructions.